spray paint to vandalize and make a statement. People in Southern California are getting notes on their Teslas, calling them complicit Nazis for owning electric cars.
Imagine that one of the world's largest automotive giants, which until recently was considered conservative and slow to make decisions, is ready to revolutionize the electric vehicle industry. Imagine that this company, which has dominated the hybrid car market for years, suddenly reveals its cards and declares that it is ready not only to catch up with the market leaders, but to overtake them. And all this is happening not in the distant future, but as early as 2025. Who would have thought that Toyota, of all companies, would be the player that could radically change the balance of power in the electric vehicle market?
I mean, the things that he's doing is not trying to make America better. He's ruining our infrastructure, every department in our government he's ruining, and he's right now destroying our economy. He's taken away all of our allies. We're a pariah in the world.
Many thought that Tesla, with its ambitions and high technology, would remain the undisputed leader in this market. But in recent years, it has become increasingly clear that a new challenge is looming on the horizon. Toyota, which until now has been perceived as an old player unable to keep up with new trends, has unexpectedly shaken up the industry by announcing its readiness to present something that could turn the industry upside down. These are not just ambitions, these are facts that are already worth paying attention to.
Well, you will hear people over in Europe say the new Model Y, the Juniper, could be a difference maker, but that's been in that market now for more than a month. And you would think that you would see a greater snapback if it's going to be a difference maker. Look, we could be wrong. It could be a difference maker once you get the sales for April, May, and June. But when you have a country like Norway, I think the sales were down something like 11% there. I mean, that's a very savvy EV consumer in Norway. And that's long been a strength for Tesla. Very small market, not huge volume, but I think almost all of the vehicles they sell there are electric. And they embraced Tesla long before others. And, you know, the reports there are not encouraging.
Instead of following the market, Toyota has decided to take on the role of innovator, bringing into play a technology that, until recently, was only talked about in scientific circles. Solid-state batteries are a technology that promises not only to increase the range to 745 miles on a single charge, but also to speed up the charging process to a record 10 minutes. Yes, you heard right, 10 minutes is the time we are used to spending on refueling a gasoline-powered car. And now that time could become a reality for electric vehicle owners.
Does that help Tesla? I mean, you had Tim Waltz, who was a huge jerk, right, you know.
But that's not enough to become a leader. Toyota understands that it is not enough to create cutting-edge technology, but also to build a long-term infrastructure that will support that technology in the real world. The company is preparing to launch 15 new electric vehicle models by 2027, while building its own network of charging stations, striving not just to catch up, but to stay ahead of the competition at every stage. Instead of relying on outdated charging stations that are overloaded and unable to support market growth, Toyota offers solutions that will relieve electric vehicle owners of many of their current problems.
That's from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. People just choosing with their wallets to not buy Teslas because of that Musk-Trump association. And actually here in London, an activist group called Everyone Hates Elon actually have been hacking bus stop signs with posters. I actually passed one yesterday. First, I wasn't quite sure what was happening, but it said the words 0 to 1939 in 3 seconds. Illusion here, 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds or something. But this poster was alluding to the start of World War II, and the image was of Musk giving that hand salute that we saw at Trump's inauguration that many have attacked as a Nazi gesture. Musk, though, has neither admitted or denied what he was doing. But we're seeing the knock-on effect of that anti-Musk anger across Europe and in terms of sales.
And what about Tesla? Every year, it faces greater difficulties. Problems with overloaded supercharger networks, rising material prices, and increasing dependence on external suppliers are all calling the company's future into question. What will Tesla do when its competitors are ready to offer faster and cheaper solutions to users?
Well, this feels more like a Tesla-only story when you look at just this fall in EV sales for them, that they're suffering across Europe, down 45% in January. The wider EV market in Europe up 37%, so rivals are catching up and performing.
In this video, we'll talk about how Toyota, long considered an outsider, is now becoming a serious challenge for Tesla. We'll break down how it's using solid-state batteries, how it's building its infrastructure, and how Tesla can respond to this challenge. This is a story about how an old player can become a new leader and forever change the rules of the electric vehicle market. Get ready for an incredible story that could completely change everything we know about the future of electric vehicles.
Running around on stage with the Tesla stock price, where the stock price had gone in half. And he was overjoyed. What an evil thing to do. What a creep, what a jerk. Like, who derives joy?
Just a few years ago, the world of electric vehicles seemed to be in its infancy. Only a few companies were trying to develop this technology, and it was difficult to imagine that traditional car manufacturers would ever be able to adapt to such a radically new market. As electric vehicles developed, Tesla quickly took the lead. Inspired by Elon Musk's ambition, the company took on the role of pioneer, not only changing the way we think about the cars of the future, but also setting standards for the entire industry. While many auto giants remained in the shadows, skeptical of electrification, Tesla literally single-handedly began to dictate the rules of the game, and its supercharging stations and unique technologies charged the entire market. But who would have thought that a company would emerge on the horizon capable of not only challenging Tesla, but also completely changing the balance of power in the electric vehicle market? And oddly enough, it was Toyota.
After Trump imposed those sweeping 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel imports, the European Union retaliating with tariffs on up to $28 billion of U.S. goods. Trump making it clear this isn't over, vowing to respond in kind with sweeping retaliatory tariffs early next month.
They're doing what they should be doing, perhaps, for the European Union, but it does create ill will. And as you know, we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs. So whatever they charge us, we're charging them.
Canada also striking back with new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods, mostly steel and aluminum, but also computers and sporting goods.
For many years, Toyota seemed to be one of the most conservative players in the automotive industry. Known for its hybrid cars, hydrogen technology, and maximum focus on safety and durability, the company was not the first to consider full electrification. For many, it remained a symbol of caution and a wait-and-see attitude. Meanwhile, Tesla was loudly proclaiming its vision of the future, and the world was eagerly watching the innovations that Elon Musk and his team were introducing into everyday life. But as is often the case, not all the most outstanding ideas come from the biggest names. Toyota, playing the long game, prepared its own move. For a long time, while working on hybrid and hydro technologies, it did not make any sudden moves towards electric vehicles, but behind the scenes it was already building strategic plans.
We've accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started.
He praised all the domestic actions he has taken so far on immigration.
And I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country.
And spending cuts.
We are draining the swamp. It's very simple.
And now, in 2025, all eyes in the industry are once again on Toyota, which it would seem was just recently a mere observer. The giant, which until now had been perceived as an old player past its prime, suddenly announced that it was ready to take on the role of leader in a whole new era, electric vehicles. These were not just big words, but reality backed up by impressive technology. Unlike many other automakers, Toyota not only announced its intentions but also invested billions in the development of solid-state batteries. These batteries promise a real breakthrough that could radically change the market and solve many of the problems faced by electric vehicle owners. Unlike Tesla, which is actively experimenting with new technologies but is struggling with infrastructure overload, Toyota has focused on fundamental work where every detail matters. The company did not rush into making announcements but approached the issue with caution. For example, it did not immediately rush into the race to create the fastest and most expensive electric vehicles, but focused on solving pressing problems. One such problem was the limited range of electric vehicles, as well as long charging times. Toyota realized that if it wanted to become a leader in this market, it had to address these issues. And so, the company introduced solid-state battery technology, which promised to increase the range to 745 miles on a single charge and significantly reduce charging time. All this was backed up not only by promises, but also by real-world testing in northern Canada and Alaska, where the batteries proved their effectiveness in the most extreme climatic conditions. But technology is only part of the strategy. It is important not only to create an innovative product, but also to build the right strategy for years to come. Toyota decided not to limit itself to creating advanced batteries, but to prepare the infrastructure for the mass production of its technologies. Investments in the creation of its own factories, partnerships with major energy giants, and the creation of a system of charging stations that could work with its new batteries were important steps on the road to leadership. Unlike Tesla, which is facing congestion in its supercharging network and problems with increasing the number of charging stations, Toyota has developed innovative solutions for charging its vehicles that will not depend on large networks. One example is compact chargers that can be installed in residential areas and gas stations, which will greatly simplify the charging process and reduce dependence on centralized stations.
Outperforming as well in some cases, doing better than Tesla. And you just have to think, how much more is this a sustained issue for Tesla going forward, given the fact that you have Elon Musk, who's been very forthright in his opinions, particularly weighing in on politics, particularly in Europe. We've just had the European elections, which Musk has been very focused on. But across the piece, when you look at the performance for Tesla in Europe, it's not just in small countries. There are a lot of countries where Tesla has been performing badly, including in Germany, in the UK, where it has been lagging, and Spain as well.
All the while Toyota was quietly and confidently developing its strategy, Tesla was facing growing problems. At the beginning of its journey, Tesla easily attracted attention to its network of supercharging stations, but with each passing year, these stations began to become overloaded. As demand for Tesla electric vehicles grew, the charging station network could not keep up with this growth. Moreover, with the increase in the number of electric vehicles using traditional lithium-ion batteries, problems with shortages of rare materials began to arise. This placed an additional burden on the production and delivery of vehicles. Unlike Tesla, which relied on external supplies, Toyota decided to control the entire production process of its batteries by investing in raw material extraction and setting up its own production facilities. Thus, with each step, Toyota is not only catching up but also preparing to lead the electric vehicle industry. Tesla's problems, with its overburdened infrastructure, rising material costs, and dependence on external supplies, are becoming increasingly apparent. While Tesla faces challenges, Toyota continues to work strategically to create not just cars, but an entire ecosystem that will enable it to take a leading position in the electric vehicle industry. For many years, Toyota remained a sideline observer in the race for electric mobility, but that has changed in the last few years. The company, which initially focused on hybrid and hydrogen technologies, has unexpectedly decided to completely change its strategy. Unlike Tesla, which has always stood out for its aggressive policy and constant new announcements, Toyota has chosen a more secretive path, gradually introducing advanced technologies before taking the decisive step. By 2025, it became clear that this step could be a turning point for the company.
Tesla shares have slumped by more than 9% amid a fall in sales in Europe. The electric vehicle maker posted lower sales across 5 European countries, including France and the UK. Joining us now to discuss this is CBS News foreign correspondent Remi Inocencio. Remi, why do we believe these sales are dropping? What's driving that?
Sure. Well, Errol, basically what Elon Musk has been talking about over the past, say, few months, ever since Donald Trump's election back to the White House, that has been fueling this anger, this frustration, some even say disgust towards Musk, and they're taking it out on Tesla. Tesla now feeling the pain. But because of what's happening here in Europe, Tesla sales fell by nearly half across the continent just last month, 45%.
Meanwhile, Tesla continues to face growing problems. Every year, the number of electric vehicles on the roads increases, and the network of supercharging stations, once considered a flagship of innovation, is becoming overloaded. Tesla users are increasingly facing long queues, and despite the company's efforts to upgrade its infrastructure, the problem of a shortage of charging stations is only getting worse. In addition, rising prices for rare materials such as lithium, nickel, and cobalt are making battery production increasingly expensive.
A 371, most were saying 350 to 360. Now they're coming in at 336,068. Production of 362, 615. So for some point of reference here, you're going back to Q2, maybe Q1 of 2022 in terms of the last time that they had production this or deliveries this low for one quarter. So again, Tesla deliveries worse than expected at just over 336,000 deliveries in the first quarter. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
That's horrible. Can I just ask Phil, how about the Cybertruck? How's that doing? You got a little inventory there in the Cybertruck?
This affects not only the cost of the final product, but also the company's overall profitability. Unlike Tesla, which continues to rely on third-party suppliers for these materials, Toyota has decided to take control of the entire supply chain. The signing of agreements with Japanese energy giant Idemitsu Kosan and Dand, investments in the construction of a new lithium sulfide production plant for its solid-state batteries show that the company is ready not only to solve its supply problems, but also to become independent from unstable global markets. The creation of a plant that will supply up to 60,000 electric vehicles per year will be a key moment for Toyota, allowing the company not only to control battery production, but also to reduce production costs, which in turn will make electric vehicles more affordable.
Hey Diane, this investigation really just beginning, and one of the key elements will of course be the surveillance video, and investigators potentially have a lot of it to work with as they try to figure out what caused this fire. We know that surveillance footage has been turned over, including video from each of the cars, which could prove vital to understanding what happened here, because each vehicle has its own camera system that works even when the car is off, and 16 cars burned in this fire. And right now, investigators don't know what caused it.
With rising material prices and increasing maintenance costs for its charging infrastructure, Tesla is facing serious challenges. However, these problems only underscore how important it is for the company to have its own solutions and infrastructure. Toyota, for its part, is demonstrating strategic flexibility by investing not only in new technologies but also in the production of its own batteries and chargers. This helps the company not only minimize its risks, but also strengthen its market position. With each new investment in its own production facilities and partnerships with leading energy companies, Toyota is becoming increasingly independent from external factors and ready to tackle future challenges. The long-term approach that Toyota has chosen for its strategy is already bearing fruit. The company is not only solving the problems of charging and range for electric vehicles, but also developing new standards for the entire industry. In 2025, when Toyota takes the decisive step of installing charging ports compatible with the Tesla system, the electric vehicle market could experience a real revolution. This move will be a recognition of Tesla's achievement, but also a signal to all players that the game is just beginning. Thanks to its strategic approach, Toyota is not only catching up, but also preparing to become a leader in the new era of electric mobility.
Canada, the largest supplier of steel to the U.S., slapping new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods that are sold in Canada. And the 27 countries of the European Union imposing retaliatory tariffs on up to $28 billion worth of U.S. goods sold in Europe, including Harley-Davidson motorcycles and Kentucky bourbon. President Trump with the Irish Prime Minister visiting the White House today. The president suggesting his tariffs won't stop here, saying, "Of course, I'm going to respond." And tonight, right here, the new poll showing 56% of Americans disapprove of President Trump's handling of the economy. The number's even worse now on the president's tariffs.
Unlike its competitors, who are focused on creating single models and mass-producing batteries, Toyota intends to think much bigger. By 2027, the company plans to release 15 new electric vehicle models, each equipped with next-generation solid-state batteries. This is not just an improvement on existing technology, it is a breakthrough that has the potential to radically change the approach to charging and the range of electric vehicles. While most companies are still struggling with a shortage of battery materials and overloaded charging stations, Toyota is setting its own standards. The company continues to invest in the development of new types of batteries and chargers to provide faster and more convenient solutions for electric vehicle owners. This move promises to seriously change the market and make electric vehicles much more affordable and practical for every consumer.
over the last couple of months. But the other thing that this could potentially be is an attempt at readjustment or correction by the Trump administration, in that one of Trump's closest kind of allies and supporters, and someone who's clearly very influential in the administration, is coming out to kind of push back against the recently implemented policies. So I'm thinking, or maybe hopeful is the right word, that this might be a signal that the administration is considering walking back some of those policies.
But Toyota's future is not just about battery innovation. The company is actively working to create a new charging infrastructure that will be much more flexible and accessible. While Tesla is facing congestion on its network of supercharging stations, Toyota is developing compact chargers that can be installed in residential areas, gas stations, and even in places where large numbers of people gather. This approach fundamentally changes the perception of what the charging infrastructure of the future should look like. The charging device that Toyota is developing will be much smaller in size, making it more accessible for installation anywhere. This technology reduces dependence on centralized charging stations and significantly lowers the cost of charging for users. Such steps indicate that Toyota sees the future not only in the development of technology, but also in the creation of an entire ecosystem that will support its electric vehicles at all stages of operation.
But they are not ruling out the possibility that this was arson. At the same time, as you just mentioned, there are groups that have been organizing ongoing and peaceful protests at Tesla dealerships around the world. These demonstrations targeting Elon Musk and his affiliation with the Trump administration. Also, Italy's prime minister is said to be close friends with Musk, and there were reports that Teslas have been vandalized in her hometown in Italy. Diane.
Meanwhile, Toyota, which did not rely on external sources and unstable markets, began to actively work on creating its own supply chain. Partnerships with major energy companies and the construction of plants to produce lithium sulfide, a key component for solid-state batteries, show that the company is serious about long-term independence from global supplies. These decisions, which Toyota made several years ago, are beginning to bear fruit. The creation of its own lithium sulfide production plant, with an expected investment of more than $140 million, will not only allow the company to control battery production, but also significantly reduce costs, making its electric vehicles even more competitive.
KTLA Samantha Cortese joins us live with more on the wave of vandalism in protest of Elon Musk and his role in Washington. Sam?
Hi, Sharon, Micah. The ATF and FBI are collaborating with federal, state, and local law enforcement to investigate acts of domestic terrorism surrounding Teslas.
Amid Tesla's problems with overloaded charging stations, rising material prices, and increasing maintenance costs, Toyota is quietly continuing to build its technological empire, which, as the company's latest moves show, may soon become a decisive factor in the battle for leadership in the electric vehicle market. The creation of new models with solid-state batteries, the development of compact chargers, and the strengthening of partnerships with key players in the energy market all point to Toyota's success in the coming years. Even if Tesla continues to lead in autonomous technology and innovation, Toyota is poised to take the lead in the practicality and usability of electric vehicles, which could be an important factor for most consumers.
Worse than expected, 336 and 68 vehicles, 336,068 vehicles delivered in the first quarter for Tesla. For a point of reference, the street was expecting, the street account was expecting, based on analyst expectations.
The world of electric vehicles is on the cusp of a new era. While some players, such as Tesla, continue to face scaling challenges, others, such as Toyota, are already building infrastructure that could define the future of the entire market. Revolutionary batteries and new approaches to charging could not only change the rules of the game, but also completely transform the idea of what it means to be a leader in this industry. In the next few years, Toyota could become the player that not only catches up with, but also overtakes its main competitor, demonstrating how the future of electric mobility should be built.